Hey, Synergy, we are back and excited to teach through the Leadership One course. Today's message video that you've picked up is titled Leading Through Team. TEAM. You've heard it a million times, I'm sure. Together, everybody achieves more. Or maybe you've heard the old saying, teamwork makes the dream work. And guess what? It's true. We can always lift heavier things together, and we can always go farther when we're together. There's a better produced result when it's done with a team than when it's done with an individual. Matter of fact, there are a ton of Bible references to team. God is sort of like into team, and maybe he didn't call it team, but he formed these little teams. He formed these groups. He formed these little like opportunities of people to get together to produce a goal. And he does that in a number of ways. You know that the church is called a body, which is a form of team, a collaboration of people. You know that God is team. We find in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, as he said, let us make man in our image. The family we know is made up of a team, of a father, a mother, and children. And we find that in Genesis 2:18, Ephesians 5 and 6. You know, Moses was counseled to get a team in Exodus 18 when he was going out of his mind with all the work that he had. He was counseled to form a team so that way he might spread out the work. Solomon said two are better than one in Ecclesiastes 4:9. Ephesians 4:11 through 12 says leadership in the church is team. Servants were chosen as a team of 7 in Acts chapter 6. Remember that they chose 7 who were full of the Holy Spirit to help wait on the tables. And lastly, Jesus chose a team. He chose 3, and he chose 12, and 70, and 120, and we see all these differences as to what Jesus had chosen as far as a team. And you know what would help you in your leadership and in your ministry? A team would help. A team would help. A team always helps. It always helps to have team members and to have the right team members, and that's what I want to do today. I just want to equip you with a basic framework for team development. And this is something that maybe today you are not the leader of a team, but maybe one day you will be. Or maybe even as a leader of a team who has other people who are going to begin to develop teams. I'm telling you, this basic framework has worked for me for many years in ministry, not only as a tool for myself, but also as a tool for others to develop their ministry. And so team development. Well, to develop your team, you must recruit your team members, train your team members, and here's the real work, retain your team members. You see, the best teammates are ones that your own team members actually recruit. So I encourage you. I know that they're like, maybe you're in church leadership, and maybe you've got some form of a ministry, and your ultimate desire is to have 3 more people in your ministry, so that way your ministry team could move forward to accomplish some form of goal. And so of course, what do? The first thing you do is you call up whoever's in charge of announcing the fact that you need 3 new people for your team. And so they get up on Sunday and they announce that they need 3 more people for your team. And like most often, you maybe get 1, right? And the reality is as soon as that 1 comes in, you hear those dreaded words of every ministry leader from somebody else on your team, I'm stepping down. Oh, nothing strikes fear more in the heart of the volunteer leader than hearing those words, I'm stepping down, right? And it's like that. There's this revolving door that happens oftentimes within ministry. People come in and people go out, which means it is imperative that you become masterful at recruiting others that God is calling to your team. And I would encourage you how to do that. How do I do that? Well, I would say first, you have to pray for teammates. Luke chapter 6, verse 12 through 16, we see Jesus praying for his disciples. The text tells us that he goes into a mountain, separates himself from people so that way he might talk to God. He prays for teammates, listens to the Lord, comes back down, and he chooses his 12 to become his apostles. So pray for teammates. God will lead you. Secondly, we see train your teammates to recruit. I'm telling you, the best people to actually recruit for your ministry is not necessarily always the leader, but the people that surround the leader that are telling other people that they need to be a part of it. So I actually teach, whenever I'm a part of a team, I teach my teammates to recruit other people to become a part of the team. And I would encourage you to do the same. Third, set goals for them to go get one. Maybe you have a everyone go get one month. Like, okay, we got a goal. There's 5 of us. We need 10 of us. So how about we dedicate the month of December so everyone gets one? And this is what we're looking for in our team. This is the heart we're looking for. This is the gift set that we're looking for. This is the type of person or people that we maybe are aiming for. And let's go get them. And you release your people to recruit and to bring in to be a part of the team process. Next, I would say leverage and release your come and see people. Now, there are some people who are wildly introverted, and instead of saying come and see, they're telling people go away. Like, I get it. Like, some people are introverts, but I'm telling you, there are other people who are extroverts and they actually push people away because they're so wild. But listen, there's some type of people, and you'll recognize if you look for it, who are come and see type of people. They're extroverts who have relationships with others, and they just have this ability to influence and to draw others in. Those come and see people remind me of like Andrew. Remember, Andrew was met by Jesus. He tells, hey, you got to come and see this one who's told, and then there's Philip who says, hey, you need to come and see this Jesus. And then there's a woman at the well who says, you need to come and you need to see this one who told me everything I've ever done. Like these are 3 people in the scriptures who are come and see people, who are like, I mean, I can describe it to you, but you got to come and be a part of this thing and check this Jesus business out. We find that in John chapter 1, verse 35 through 46, and John chapter 4, verse 4 through 26. And then lastly, there's the last effort, and that is recruit team members for yourself. You know, one of the things that I've been known to do is to give people the opportunity to grow in ways that maybe they didn't see before, give them the solution of service to their problem of maybe loneliness. Well, I'm really lonely. I don't know what to do. You know what you should do is you should come and be a part of this team and serve God. Well, you know what, man, I'm really disconnected. Well, you know what you should do? You should come be a part of this team and serve God. You know what, man, I've really been struggling with these secret sins, and then you guys, you should, me and my wife, having these challenges, the 2 of you should come and you should serve God. Like, there's something special about throwing in, living on mission and being a part of a team that helps to solve some of people's most basic problems. So number 1, you're going to want to recruit. Secondly, you're going to want to train. Secondly, number 2, train them. Jot this down in your notes. Train them well. You see, the quickest way to lose team members is to lose them to fear and insecurity. Fear and insecurity will defeat somebody from being a successful team member before they even start. Matter of fact, I would say that the bulk of what people struggle with to even become a part of your team is fear and insecurity. They don't know if they're wanted, and they don't know if they're going to be successful. So as a result, it's better to not even try, to not even look into the potential of being successful, growing, coming into my calling, becoming better, taking the next step, or being elevated another level if they don't believe it. And so it's part of it is causing them to believe it. And the best way to cause people to believe that they could actually be successful at something is to train them how to do it. Fearful and insecure people will always see themselves as grasshoppers in the eyes of the enemy. Look how big those problems are. And because I've never done it, and because I don't know how to do it, and there's no support for me to do it, I'm not going to do it. The problems are too big and I'm too small. But training, transformation of mind, the giving of resources or of tools to be successful gives people a sort of boldness that says, I think I may be able to accomplish with the support of my team members the goal or the problem that is at hand. And then there's B. Jot this down. Training helps to build confidence in the work you are asking of them. Training helps to build confidence in the work you're asking of them. You see, when you train somebody, they think to themselves, you know what, if it makes sense on paper, or if I see an example, or if I heard some stories, I've been shown how to do it, I think I can now do it on my own. It gives them confidence. And next, we find never place a person into a position until you have trained them. That people genuinely want to do well. One of the biggest problems that I found early on in my ministry, I was a children's pastor for about 12 years. Yeah, brand new really to Christianity, brand new to following Jesus. I got saved the same year that I was thrust into leadership at my church on a pastoral level, primarily towards children. And one thing that I learned really, really fast is it's not about me. I mean, it really takes an army to be able to accomplish what is necessary to train children. And I found out very early that me attempting to accomplish everything that needed to happen wasn't going to work out well, primarily because I can't be in two places at once. You know, it's like, it's sort of a problem. And so I can't be in both first grade class and fifth grade class teaching because that is impossible. Not only that, but I found that there was this great deficiency in how many people wanted to be a part of children's ministry and how many people had already been a part of children's ministry that no longer wanted to be. And I mean, this was a quandary that I had to solve. And I found that one of the primary problems with all of those people that no longer wanted to be in ministry was they were just handed curriculum pointed towards a class, and they were given the opportunity to lay down their life in service to God without any training, without any start date or end date in mind, with this sort of ambiguous, like, thank you for stepping up, we're barely surviving, here's some materials, go read it, go figure out your own system, go figure out your own way to discipline if a child's crazy, go figure out your own way to be able to get reimbursed for the snacks and crafts that you bought. Like there was a lot of administrative challenges when I stepped in. And one of the first things that I fixed that really changed everything at that time was implementing training. Was sitting down with the people and asking the people that were already presently in the ministry, who were tired and who were exhausted and who were worn out, what is it that you feel like you need to be successful? And across the board, what they were asking for more than anything was more resourcing, more help, just more leadership, more training. And so what I did was able to come in and to formulate training primarily through listening to what they were already presently doing, and to reinforce that, and then to duplicate that with new recruits that we had brought in. And as a result, what ended up happening was we became far healthier, knowing that if they were to step into the ministry, they would be supported with training. They would be taught how to do what to do so that way they could be released to do it successfully. I want to encourage you to train. And I want to teach you that there are really, I believe, 5 steps to effective training. Now, the challenge with these 5 steps is it's 5 whole steps. I mean, wouldn't it be far easier to just make it 1 step? And the answer is yes. That happens often. Oftentimes, there is the 1 step to training, and that is, well, here's the manuals or here's the videos, and why don't you go out and read the manuals or watch the videos, and now you know what to do, and then I'll go ahead and do it. But I think there's a better way. So let me give you 5 steps to effective training. Number 1, I encourage you to do the work while they simply observe. Maybe in the corporate or retail world, this is called shadowing. You're just going to be my shadow. You're going to be by my side. You're going to observe while I do it. And then secondly, after you've observed how I do it, now let's work together and do it together. We can have a dialogue and engagement and discussion while we do it. And then thirdly, I want you to do the work, and I will observe while you do the work. And it's at that time I can reinforce some things, I can encourage some other things, or correct some things that are wrong. Number 4 is I'm going to leave you to do the work. Now, you go out and do the work on your own, and this is where oftentimes people sort of freeze up and they're like, oh my goodness, now it's time for me to step up. You're going to leave me. I'm going to be doing it on my own. And what is that? That's fear and insecurity. And it's at that point, number 4, and I think it's imperative that you know that as soon as you're about to release them to see how they do, they need to know that this isn't a test as to whether they are good or bad. This is just an opportunity for them to build confidence that they can actually do it on your own, and reinforce with them that you are going to follow up with them. Not follow up with them to see how did it go and did you do it perfectly, but rather how did it go and is there any areas of success, any areas that you see that you can grow in, any questions that you have for me to encourage to train you even further. And then number five, and this is imperative to health in your training process. Usually you can get to number 4. But to get to number 5 is going to revolutionize your training process within your ministry, your business, your team, whatever it is that you want to call it. Number 5 is train them to repeat this same process with others. Meaning, train your people to be trainers of people. That it shouldn't bottleneck just to you as the leader to be a trainer, and it shouldn't bottleneck to your trainer who is in charge of just training everyone. Oftentimes, we even bottleneck training up to the class that we teach on this Sunday a month, and it's on this Sunday a month that we're going to teach this class, and the teacher's going to teach it, or the video is going to teach it that we pre-recorded. And as a result, what ends up happening is people don't learn how to duplicate themselves. And so it is imperative that you train your trainers to train trainers, that you actually train them to repeat this process of training people with others. And why? Well, experts say that learners retain 5% of what they learned through a lecture, which means 95% of what I'm saying to you right now, experts are saying that you're not even going to retain this. However, experts tell us likewise that 90% of what people learn will be retained when they teach someone else to use it and to do it themselves. So if a person teaches somebody else what they just learned, they will have a 90% retention rate, which means anytime you ever learn something, the best way for you to get it to stick is to turn around and to teach someone else how to do it, or to apply it right away, like immediately, to apply it to your life. Jot this down. Trainers have far more long-term buy-in than the average team member. And so if you want somebody to stick and to stick for a long time, don't just train them, but train them to train others, because that's going to give them a sense of ownership over the ministry that not only causes them to recruit people, but to train people. And here's the sneaky thing, is if you're teaching them to recruit and teaching them to train, what happens when either, number one, God calls you to do something different, or number two, he calls them to go duplicate what you have done inside of them? Do you see the beauty of that? You see the beauty of not having to be the person who is in charge, not having to be the head of the spider, but just giving yourself the freedom to be one of the legs on the starfish. Now, granted, you may be the leader, but the purpose and the point of the kingdom of God is multiplication for the glory of God, multiplying the love and the salvation, the church, and the work that God has prepared for us. Number 3, jot this down. We talked about recruiting. We've talked about training. But here's the secret sauce in a healthy team. Listen, you got to be able to retain. Jot this down. Retaining present team members is more valuable than recruiting 5 new ones. Again, those dreaded words, I'm stepping down. You know, I found that a person stepping down from a ministry that they alone and solely had done and had bore fruit from and had sort of isolated themselves with can be far more damaging than having 5 people step down from a ministry who sort of just like floated around and volunteered in places. It's like there's something really challenging about somebody who is entrenched inside of a ministry as if it's their ministry and nobody can be a part of that ministry, or maybe it's at work and you know somebody who's like adopted something. This is my favorite thing to do and this is what I do and nobody can do it and it has to be mine. Nobody can do it as well as I do it. And as a result, they keep the work for themselves instead of multiplying it. And the problem is when that person goes away, how they do what they did and the way in which they did what they did goes with them. And so it's important for us to not only train, but to retain our workers by spreading out the work and giving people the opportunity to not only take ownership of ministries, but to take ownership, listen, of people over those ministries. We always have to have a people focus when it comes to ministry, because if not, then we're going to have a ministry focus. We're going to have a me focus. This is mine, and this is what I'm accomplishing, not how do I give this away so it can either be duplicated somewhere else or it can be covered here if God calls me to go. And so how do we retain? Well, I'm going to give you a couple of, simple solutions to that. I would say, number 1, love your team. Love them. Just love your team. Like 1 Corinthians says, love is patient and it's kind. It's not jealous. It doesn't envy. It doesn't boast or brag. Like what love is Jesus literally in action through his people. Love your team. Love your team like Jesus loved his team. Love your team like Jesus has loved you. There's something really attractive about love that has this effect on making a team solidified and an attractive place for others to want to be a part of. You see, everybody wants to be a part of a place where they can be accepted. And people aren't a part of a place where they're just constantly ridiculed or rejected or measured up to a standard of excellence that they seem to never hit week after week or day after day, but rather part of a team where we're all collectively humble, admitting that we don't have it all put together, but that together we can work towards a goal if each one of us love each other. Wasn't that Jesus' strategy when he was ministering to his disciples? Secondly, I would say guard your team's rest and relationships. What does that mean? Well, to guard your team's rest and to guard your team's relationship, let me give you a simple illustration. It's like observing their Lego pad. Yeah, I said Lego. Lego, Lego. Those horrible things that you step on your way to the bathroom at 2 a.m. If you got children, God bless you. There is not a greater pain minus childbirth or passing a kidney stone than stepping on a Lego at 2 a.m. Can I get an amen out there? These little things called Legos, and I just want you to just visualize with me because I didn't bring one today, oftentimes would come with what's called a Lego pad. A Lego pad is just a pad that has, those little, those little nubs on it so you can squeeze the Legos onto. And as a result, you can build a city, or it becomes the foundation where you can build a spaceship, or it becomes the foundation where you can build just a whole bunch of mess of Legos on top of a pad. Well, here's the thing. Everybody that's on your team has a different size Lego pad. I know, like, when it comes to my wife, she actually has a pretty small Lego pad. She needs a lot of downtime. She needs a lot of time to rest. She needs a lot of time to think and to process things and feelings. Me, on the other hand, I don't know if I've ever reached the end of my Lego pad. It's like I just love more and stack it on and build it on. There has been times in my ministry where I felt like I am weighed down. I've said yes to so much. As a matter of fact, not only have I said yes to so much, but I haven't said no to anything. I mean, the leaders that are leading me throughout my, job and my ministry have constantly come to me, and the people have constantly come to me. They've given this ask to me that has been met with a yes, and because of that, I just got way too many Legos on my Lego pad. Listen to me. If you want to retain people, you have got to guard their rest, and you've got to guard their relationships. I mean, you have to care more about their family than the success of the team. You have to care more about them being healthy, care more about them being rested than filling in another position that you need a substitute for. You have got to care about your people. And then thirdly, I'd say, I'd have a start and an end date to their service. There's this really challenging thing in church where people will say yes to serving and they don't know when it's going to end. Am I going to be serving in the nursery until Jesus comes back? Because that doesn't seem like I'm headed towards heaven. We need to give people a start and an end date to their service, and then ask them to be faithful to complete it. This is how you will retain more people. There are some people who sign up to be a part of some form of ministry in the church, and they love it for 20 years. But there are people who sign up to be a part of a ministry in your church, and they love it for the first years, and then they don't love it so much for the next 5. This isn't people that are operating out of their gifts or operating out of their passion or their desires to serve the Lord. These are people who are operating out of duty. And the thing that makes oftentimes a team so attractive to be a part of is they're a part of something that's going to accomplish a goal, and then it's going to move on. And I love being a part of teams where I know that there's a goal that that we can together collaborate on and accomplish, and I don't have to do it for the next 15 years. But it has a start and it has an end. And this is a twofold benefit. Number one, you can release people who really aren't a good fit for the team. Let's say you have like a 90-day commitment and they come in and for the first 30 days, they're training and sort of getting acclimated. And you find that around like the 60-day period, they're not really called to this, which means that the last 30 days, getting up to that 90-day period, they're just sort of struggling along. They see they're not fit for it. You see they're not fit for it. The worst thing would be to throw them on the schedule for another 90-day period. It gives you an opportunity to release people who aren't a good fit for the team. It also gives them an out, and it gives them an in. You know, I'm far, and I'm sure that you would agree, far more likely to agree to step back into something if you had the freedom to step out. So because I have the freedom to step out in something, I will take the freedom to step back in whenever life or my schedule or my calling fits. And even if they leave you, you'll have a far greater return with those that know they aren't stuck until the return of Jesus. And the key word there is stuck. And I would say, D, jot this down, D, celebration is as important as preparation. Now, if you've been in ministry for any amount of time, you know that there is tons and tons and tons of preparation before actual execution of maybe it's an event, or maybe it is a discussion, or maybe it's all the editing that's necessary before you upload and release. Like there's a lot of back-end work before there is on stage production. And so my encouragement to you is to celebrate after something has been accomplished, because celebration is just as important as all the hours and blood, sweat, and tears that it takes for preparation. You see, far too often we're preparing, which is a lot of work, and it's grueling work, and it's challenging work, and there's stress with it, and tension, and all these human things that we have when we're not, fully surrendered to the Spirit with a project, and all these different things that we're going through, and then all of a sudden we get up to it, and we finally accomplish it, and everyone's like, whew, that was a lot of work. All right, what's next? And what ends up happening is we don't actually look at and celebrate what God has done, what the team has done, what your people who have given time and energy have done. So I encourage you, make celebration part of your culture. If you can't celebrate every win, every point of progress, every hurdle that people overcome, and find a multitude of ways to do that. I would encourage you that at the end of the day, the week, or the month, or maybe you have a process, a system that's set in place where you sit down and you say, who can we celebrate and what have they accomplished? And take a moment and take time to celebrate the people. That is going to help you to retain. And then lastly, we have communicate, communicate, communicate. There is no such thing as over-communication. What over-communication may do is annoy some who already know, but it reminds those who already know as well. I can't tell you how many times somebody has shot me a text or a call and says, hey, such and such, and just a friendly reminder. And I'm like, thank you so much for reminding. Matter of fact, what I do now is when my wife or one of my children or one of my staff members or one of my friends says, hey, I need you to do something for me tomorrow at like 9 a.m. and it's like 9 p.m., I say, go ahead and text me. I won't read it. So that way tomorrow when I wake up at 6 a.m., I can have it done for you by 9 a.m. It's my reminder. Or another thing that I do is, and I call it the 5-second rule, as soon as I have something to do and I know that it needs to be accomplished, I either put action towards it by sending information out, like a text or a phone call or an email, or I put it inside of my calendar or on my list. So I either communicate it right away, put it on my calendar, or stick it on my task list. Why? Because on average, we have about 5 seconds before an idea or something that we know we need to do passes our mind before it falls out of our brain. And so what we need to do, and what I found that I need to do, is immediately within 5 seconds put action towards it. And primarily that action is communication. It's how am I going to communicate with others, or how am I going to communicate with myself to accomplish the task? Because again, I don't work alone, I work in team. And if my team needs to know something, they need to know it now before I forget it, or it needs to be put on a list for me to communicate with them later. It needs to be put on my calendar so my calendar can communicate to me later. The point of all of this is communication. We must communicate, 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 because there's not a faster way to lose your team members than to simply not communicate with them. Attempt to communicate everything multiple times. For example, if I have a leadership team meeting, I will ask everyone, when can we all meet next month? Oh, January 3rd at 2 o'clock. Okay, great. January 3rd at 2 o'clock. We settle on a date and time. Well, 2 weeks before, I maybe will text them all and say, hey, team, see you on January 3rd at 2 p.m. for our meeting. And then a third time, either the day before or the day of, friendly reminder regarding our meeting today at 2 p.m. Why would I do that? Because communication is key in retaining your present team members. Remember, we must recruit, we must train, and we must retain for us to have healthy teams within our leadership. A couple of things to note: that the best team members are active players in the game. They're actually active in the game. Those are the best team members. The best team members are not the people sitting on the bench, and the best team members are not the people sitting in the stands. You see, the people sitting on the bench may be future members that you pull up to the A team, that you pull up to the varsity team, right? But there needs to be some recruiting. There maybe needs to be some training, right, to retain them and to make them successful and part of your team. But usually it's those that are actively playing in the game. Remember this, that sideline observers criticize, but active players catalyze. How many times have you been sitting back and you watch a game and you say, why did you throw the ball? You should have ran the ball. As if you were on the field feeling the pressure of that quarterback, as if you had received the instructions from the coach yourself, as if you, from watching TV, knew what the best call was. Matter of fact, you didn't have his angle. You didn't know what was happening on the field, what he was hearing in his earpiece, what he was observing with his eyeballs at that time. You see, the truth is from the sidelines, it's easy to criticize what's happening on a team that you are not actively engaged with. I say all that to say this: in the development of your team, you will find critics who aren't part of your team. They're not actively even playing in the game, but for some reason, they have opinions onto how you and your team need to work together. To solve that, I'm not saying don't listen to people. I'm saying listen and pray about everything. But I am saying this. I'm saying give the most influence to the most involved. I'm not sure why it is that we give influence to people that we hope will become involved. But oftentimes you give influence away to somebody who you hope to become involved. And not only do they not become involved, they become entrenched in their non-involvement, as now they have influence as a non-involved person to dictate what the health of the team does. I want to encourage you or discourage you against that. And then lastly, critical observation isn't a bad thing, but you need equal parts wow people and how people. And that's really how I want to close out this last session. I want to discuss with you the difference between wow people and how people. And I guarantee you probably land somewhere on the wow scale or the how scale here. And I believe that a team needs to have equal parts of this type of person. You see, wow people. Wow people are the kind of people who can envision amazing works of God. Wow people can see 1,000 wells dug in Africa. Wow people can see a new orphanage raised up in Costa Rica. You see, wow people can see 20 churches planted by 2030 if we were to just get 20 pastors and 20 teams and pick 20 cities and raise 20 budgets, and they can see the potential of that because they have vision. These are people who can get into a room and before you leave there, they could have created something that wasn't created before you arrived because they are wow people. They're people who love things that are big, and they love to see things accomplished that are even impossible. Oh, we love wow people. We need wow people. But you see, what wow people need to balance them out is how people. How people are different from wow people. How people ask the question, how? Okay, so you want to see 1,000 wells dug in Africa, and that's great, but how are we going to do it? I mean, where's the budget going to come from? Where are the volunteers? And who are we going to stick? And who do we know in Africa? And where are these 1,000 wells going to go? And they like to put things in order. They like to ask questions. You see, wow people oftentimes don't like how people questioning how they're going to accomplish something, and I'll tell you why. Because most often, wow people don't know how you're going to accomplish something. But equally, I've seen groups of how people sit inside of rooms and accomplish nothing because they can't dream. They can't see things that are bigger. There is no vision. All they're ever asking is how. How do we put together the process and the funding and the people and the things that are necessary to accomplish even what we have right in front of us, let alone something new? So somebody might say, hey, let's set our course towards digging 1,000 wells in Africa. That's the wow person. And the how person says, how can we do that when we're not even meeting the needs of our own children and within our own church? Although the wow person shouldn't have his idea shot down just because the how person sees the deficiencies of how to accomplish it. But you see, the reality is that the wow person also needs to hear from the how person, how are we not meeting the needs of the children of our church so that way I might dream up and so we might seek the Lord in prayer and with our creativity to come up with an idea. Listen, we're always just one idea away from the entire game change. We're always one great idea away from an innovation that brings us to a place of solving the problem that we ourselves could not solve. But wow people without how people are just ideas. And how people without wow people are just organization. And so we need equal parts ideas and organization on our teams to be able to accomplish what God has for us. I say that because in your recruiting, I encourage you to ask God to give you people that are dreamers and doers, wow people and how people, who can have big vision, big solutions towards your big problems, as well as people who can help put together, organize, and receive from the Lord what God has planned for you to overcome. Listen, I know that it's not easy being a leader. There's a lot going into this. But I'll tell you one thing that you're going to find. If you can become part of a successful team where you, yes, recruit, train, and retain your people, where you love your people, where you pour your life into them for their success, you're going to find a group of people that can accomplish far more than you could ever accomplish on your own for the glory of God and for the good of others. I encourage you, be a part of a team. Won't you pray with me? Father God, we come asking that you would give us wisdom regarding how to see and to accomplish and to recruit and to train and to keep. I pray, God, that you would help us to accomplish successful team ministries, successful team-based businesses. And I pray, God, that you would help us to build health into those, that you would see our ministries as opportunities to bring you glory and to build others up. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you.